Most men trade 40 years of work for a distant retirement. Eddie Wilson did something different. In 1 year, he walked away with over $1 billion in business exits without building a flashy tech startup. He did it by playing a quiet, private game almost no one is talking about, the exit game. You already know the games you are supposed to play. Get a good job, climb the ladder, maybe start a little side business and hope it takes off. Meanwhile, there is another game running quietly in the background. In every city, there are thousands of boring, profitable businesses owned by people in their 60s and 70s. Many of them do not have a clear successor. They do not want more stress. They just want out. That is the world Eddie stepped into. While most men are fighting for promotions, he is buying and exiting entire machines. So who is this guy quietly playing the exit game? Eddie Wilson did not start as a Wall Street banker or Silicon Valley founder. He started in radio and media, just another guy in the industry. But while his friends were chasing better titles and bigger salaries, Eddie got obsessed with a different question. What if I own the station instead of working for it? He began buying small businesses, first with clever deal structures instead of big piles of cash. Over time, that turned into owning more than 100 companies and exiting more than 80 of them. He did not become famous. He became something rarer, a professional business buyer and seller. So, what exactly is the exit game? It is simple to understand, but powerful when you actually play it. Instead of starting a business from scratch and grinding for 10, 20, or 30 years, you buy a business that already works, fix a few key weaknesses, and then sell it for a multiple of its yearly profit. That multiple is where the magic happens. If a business makes $400,000 a year and a buyer pays 7 times that, they are cutting a check for $2.8 million. That is not just a valuation. That is roughly 7 years of your financial life, paid to you in one moment. That is what Eddie understood. Every exit is time compression. You are not just selling a company. You are selling years of cash flow in exchange for freedom and options today. Serious buyers like Eddie look at 3 things. First, do the numbers work? Is there real, consistent profit? Second, is there an operating system? Can someone else run it without you? Third, what is the intellectual property? The brand, the data, the process, the technology? What makes this business special? If you can answer those 3, you are in the game. Most people look at a business and see chaos. Eddie looks at a business and sees 5 dials he can turn. He calls them the 5 pillars. Leadership. Is there a clear destination and real decision-making? Operations. Are there systems? Or is it all duct tape and heroics? Personnel. Are the right people in the right seats? Or is everyone miscast? Finance. Do the numbers tell the truth about profit, cash flow, and debt? Sales and marketing. Is there a predictable engine bringing in new money? When Eddie buys a company, he is not falling in love with the brand. He is scanning these 5 pillars, asking, where is this thing quietly bleeding value? Because the exit game is not about perfection. It is about finding a decent machine and tightening the few bolts that change its price. Here is where Eddie really breaks from the normal small business owner. Most owners try to be everything: CEO, sales manager, bookkeeper, HR, IT, and then wonder why they are exhausted and stuck in perseverance mode. Eddie does the opposite. When he buys a company, he asks which pillar is broken and who is the best person to fix just that. Then he brings in fractional executives, part-time, high-level operators, a fractional CFO to clean up the finance pillar, a fractional COO to organize operations, a fractional CMO to build a real sales engine. They come in for a focused sprint, install systems, train the team, and then step back. Where most owners hire cheap generalists and grind harder, Eddie hires expensive specialists briefly, so the machine keeps printing money long after they are gone. Eddie did not learn this game from a textbook. He learned it by getting punched in the mouth. On his first big exit, he sat across the table from a giant corporation, lawyers, bankers, professional deal makers. Eddie was the smallest guy in the room. He got an offer, felt the pressure, and signed. Only later did he realize what had happened. The way the deal was structured, he had probably left $20 to $30 million on the table. Most people would just feel ripped off and move on. Eddie did something different. He replayed the whole thing in his head and noticed one detail. They were not just buying his business, they were buying years of future profit. That is when it clicked. If they are willing to pay me 7 to 10 years of my life up front, my real job is to build more of those machines. Eddie says every business passes through 5 phases. Startup, it is just an idea and a few first customers. Perseverance, the owner is doing everything. Stress is high, profit is inconsistent. Viability, the business actually works. It pays everyone, including the owner. Scale, systems and people let it grow without falling apart. Succession, the owner can exit or replace themselves. Here is the brutal truth. Most small business owners live and die in perseverance. They never build real systems. They never hire properly. They never clean up the numbers. So no serious buyer ever shows up because what they are really selling is themselves. Eddie's entire game is pushing a business out of perseverance and into viability, then scale, and eventually succession, so it can actually be sold. So how does this actually look in Eddie's life now? He is not hunting unicorn startups. He is hunting boring, profitable companies doing a few million in revenue, service businesses, media, events, software tools, and education companies. His pattern is simple. Acquire a business that already makes money but is stuck in perseverance. Diagnose. Which of the 5 pillars are weak? Drop in fractional executives to install systems and fix those pillars. Document. Everything so the business can run without a hero founder. Sometimes, roll up similar companies into a larger group. Exit when the multiple makes sense. He does not need one company to be worth $1 billion. He just needs a steady pipeline of solid companies, each exit compressing a few more years of his life into one decision. Let's bring this back to you. Life A is the default. You have a decent job, maybe a side hustle, but everything depends on you showing up. There's no real asset, no exit. Just work until you're done. Life B is the exit game path. You start thinking like an owner and a buyer. You build or buy a business with systems, recurring revenue, and something unique a buyer would value. You can step into this 3 ways: as an employee who builds systems, an owner who makes the business sellable, or an acquisition entrepreneur who buys a boring winner. So how do you actually start playing this game? Step 1. Pick one lane you understand: local services, e-commerce, software, content, or whatever you already get. Step 2. Study which businesses in that lane are being bought and by whom. Step 3. Define your hypothetical buyer and what they care about. Most acquirers value profit first, then recurring contracts, the underlying technology, and the strength of the brand. Step 4. Start or buy a small business in that lane. Step 5. Fix 1 or 2 pillars first, not everything at once. When you buy a struggling business, trying to overhaul every problem at the same time drains cash and momentum. Instead, identify the 1 or 2 weak pillars that are the biggest constraints, whether leadership, operations, personnel, finance, or sales and marketing, and focus your resources there. Get those pillars to a reliable, operable state. Document the systems you use and measure the improvement. Quick, measurable wins create cash flow and credibility, and they make it possible to attract buyers or scale the model later. Step 6. From day 1, build an exit dossier containing clean numbers, written processes, key contracts, and intellectual property. That's how you quietly enter the exit game. Imagine Eddie at the closing table again. No ringing bell, no confetti, just a pen, a contract, and a man who quietly bought back years of his life. That is what the exit game really gives you: time. Money is just the amplifier. If you are insecure, it amplifies that. If you are generous and focused, it amplifies that too. So the real questions are not just, how do I make more? It is, who would I be if I was not trading all my time for money? And what system am I building that could one day buy those years back? If you want more billionaire blueprints turned into everyday moves, subscribe to the Billionaire Blueprint and start designing your own exit game.